This is question 1 from the 2016 TSA paper. So in this question we're asked which of the options best expresses the main conclusion of the argument in the passage. So first let's look at the argument sentence by sentence. It says that we need to accept that flooding is going to be a regular occurrence in the UK. So I haven't marked this as a fact. It looks like something the writer is saying we need to do. So it's probably something the writer's going to be basing on other things, but it may or may not be the main conclusion, we'll have to see at the end. Then they say that extreme rain has become much more common since 1960, from 1 in 100 days to 1 in 70 days. So it's just providing some facts about rainfall. Then they say extreme rain also increased in other parts of the world, and countries such as India and China expect to prepare for this. So I've kind of cut that sentence in half there because they go on to say something about the UK. But this is one piece of information, that extreme rain increased in other parts of the world, including India and China, who are prepared for the rain. And then we go on to the next part of that sentence. They say in the UK we'll have to change our thinking and plan our infrastructure to cope with the flooding. So that's a must statement, so this isn't presenting evidence now, this is something the writer's concluding. Is it the main conclusion? We'll see that later. Then they go on to add some more information. So they say the damage caused to homes and businesses, as well as the risk of injury and death, are significant. And then lastly, they say that as the world has warmed by 0.7 degrees, the atmosphere can hold more water. And so that means we get more rain. So these two are both back to factual statements again. Okay, so now let's look at how these sentences fit together into the argument. Okay, to start with, I've put these pieces of information in the fact column. So the fact extreme rain is becoming more common, they increased all over the world and other countries are prepared for it, and global warming means there'll be more rain in the future. All these things are setting up the problem, which is problems caused by the increased extreme rain. And part of the problem, I've also said, is the damage and risk caused. So this is a factual statement. Flooding does cause damage and is dangerous. But this is specifically setting up the problem that's going to be solved. The problem is the danger caused by the flooding. So now we're looking for the solution, which is probably going to be the main conclusion. And we've got these two conclusions the writer draws, that we're going to need to accept regular flooding because it's becoming more common, and that we're going to have to change our thinking and plan our infrastructure differently. So which of these is the main conclusion? Well, one thing I'll note is that this first sentence is setting up the problem rather than offering a solution. So it's saying it's part of the problem that flooding is going to be more regular. It's not just accepting that isn't part of the solution, whereas changing how we think and plan our infrastructure is part of the solution. It's also worth noting that this statement supports this one, because if flooding is becoming more regular, then that's why we should change our thinking, but not vice versa. So it looks like this is just setting up the problem, so it's an intermediate conclusion only, whereas here we have the main conclusion. Okay, so now let's see which of our options looks most like that. Okay, so here I've copied in my main conclusion. I'm looking for something that paraphrases this as closely as possible. And if we go through the options, D is almost a straight paraphrase of this part of the conclusion. The UK has to change its infrastructure to cope with flooding. So it looks like D is going to be the answer. Let's just quickly rule out the others. One thing to note is that E and C aren't things the writer explicitly says. They don't say the temperature will keep rising, only that it has risen. They don't say anything about what will stop global warming. So those definitely aren't parts of the main conclusion. Then A and B are things the writer probably believes, but they aren't should statements. So they're unlikely to be the conclusion. They're just used to support this conclusion. So those aren't the answer either. So that means our answer here is D.